Groovy.
Evening, everyone. Welcome to Horror After Midnight. I am your host, Slinky Jallo, joined by my good buddy, KC. And we have an awesome guest with us tonight. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Hello, Manny Serrano. I am the co-owner of Massgrave Pictures. We are a independent, low-budget horror film team out of New York.
Awesome. And this is great. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, man. Really can't thank you enough.
It's really cool, man. Thanks for having me. I'm digging your masks and the posters and stuff there. I feel like an extension of my own place here.
Awesome. Well, this is why nothing gets done around here, because we just sit and talk about horror movies, man.
So man, I hear it.
But if you want, go ahead, Chris, man. Let him,
All right.
Hit me.
For Attack of the Brain People, what inspired you to do a 50s, basically like a 50s style film like that?
Well, our first feature was Blood Slaughter Massacre, and that was an 80s slasher. Okay. In Blood Slaughter Massacre, we have the girls go to a video store and they rent a movie called Attack of the Brain People for their slumber party. And when we were shooting that, we shot like I think 6 or 7 minutes of Brain People just to have them watch something in the movie. And when Blood Slaughter was done and we released it and everything, we all were like, this is a really cool idea. So my wife, Lindsay, who was one of the co-directors, and the co-writer of Blood Slaughter, Louis Cortez, the two of them directed Brain People, and I co-wrote with them. We decided, fuck, let's do the whole thing. Let's just do it. And it was originally a web series, but it works better as like a solid piece. So we put it out as originally just supposed to be a little thing. I was like, and everybody liked it. Most of the people from Blood Slaughter came back to help out on it. We shot it over a couple of weekends. It was just one of those things. Like, we were at that time, that was 2013. So like the retro thing was really just taking off, the retro VHS and doing all the old school stuff. It's like, well, we did an 80s horror. Why not? Let's throw even farther back and we'll do a 50s sci-fi, and it was kind of like, what would happen if Ed Wood directed Night of the Living Dead? That's kind of the direction it went in. And from what people say, it sounds like we nailed it. So But it was just to have some fun, do some cool stuff, brains on strings with a bunch of our friends, and
Oh yeah,
really cool, because I'm a big fan of 50s horror movies like them and The Brain That Wouldn't Die.
Nice.
So that was really cool to see that, man.
That's totally them. What was that? The Man from Planet Eros, and those kinds of movies. That was the big inspiration behind it. That's really more their thing than mine. Like, I dig it, but like, my wife is all about 50s horror, sci-fi, and those crazy big monster movies. And Louis really loves that stuff. So it was like, well, we did Blood Slaughter together and I directed that. So it was like, all right, let's do something that the rest of the team has more input on and can really, put their stamp and put their mark and style on screen,
Yeah,
that's really cool. That's really, really cool. Nah, dig it, man. Dig it. Totally.
Thank you. That's on Amazon. If you haven't watched it, that one's on Amazon Prime. If you haven't seen it yet.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I saw the trailer and like I was salivating watching the trailer. Like, it was really
awesome.
Cool. And Chris shared the poster last night. And the poster's gorgeous, man.
Which one? We have a couple posters because we had copyright issues.
It's I guess it's the guy and the girl in the one just in the red font, The Brain That Wouldn't Die.
Yes, yeah.
Attack of the Brain People. I'm sorry.
Yes, and, the black and white one.
It's full color, but
full color. Okay, yeah, that's the one we had some copyright issues on because I took that. That was oh shit. I think that was what was that? The Man from Planet X was the original poster, and I just kind of photoshopped over it. I put the actors' faces on it, and I changed some of the background. I changed this, I changed that, and we did that for our first DVD release of that back in 2013. And we talked to a lot of artist friends, and they just told us that, like, man, it's really close to the original. You might have problems with this trying to sell it, like, especially if you put it on Amazon. He's like, they were like, you really don't want to get caught. Like, it's the type of thing you're going to do it between your friends. I think we sold like maybe 50 copies with that cover, and it mostly went to, our friends of ours who came to buy it, and then everybody in the production got a copy of that. But like I said, all our artists and friends, they were just like, no, don't do it. Change the cover. So we did a re-release with another cover. Yeah, it's one of those. It's like, you're an artist. You don't want to be stolen from, so you really don't want to steal from somebody else. It was a
Yeah.
cool little joke, but then it started just getting bigger and bigger, and it was like people are really digging this. So it
No,
was
I'm
like,
a
all right,
big
we
fan
got to
of that.
change the cover. We got to go legit with this.
Yeah, no, that's cool because you don't want to be known for that. That's
Precisely. I mean, exactly. So we don't want to be those assholes. So selling our shit, stealing other people's, like, no, that's not us.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. It's a great poster though. Really, really
Thank you.
enjoy it.
Thank you very
So,
much.
What made you want to go with the black and white for the whole movie?
Would shoot. Well, we shot it in black and white because that was just like, that's what these movies are. Like, we want, if you're gonna, when we did Blood Slaughter, we shot it in Technicolor as well. And all of the effects, everything was latex and paper towels. It was like we got very much into the aesthetic of the retroness of it, of like, we're gonna buy costumes and clothing that was available in the 80s. So all the girls, they wore Jordache and Oshkosh Bagosh clothes, and we got all the costumes on eBay, and they were like vintage clothing. So for Brain People, we're like, well, if we're going to do a 50s thing, we got to do it again. So it was like, we're going to shoot it in black and white. So this way we get the contrast right and the color, everything looks right. And we went as far as, we said to each other, like, well, back then the cameras were huge. Like, it wasn't just this little thing you stuck in your shoulder and walk around with it. These
yeah,
cameras were
size of a
big.
Kmart,
Exactly. So it was like, well, now we have to be careful with the angles we use. We can't like bring the camera moving all over the place and up and down. We can't do fancy angles. It's got to be the kind of thing where the camera just goes kind of back and forth. Actors walk in, actors walk out. So
Yeah.
so we had to do it like the camera was locked down, and that's how we shot them. So most of that was shot with two cameras, TV style. We kept them on tripods, and we just went back and forth or up and down, and that was what we limited most of it to. A couple of times we cheated a little bit just because, like, it just doesn't look right. But it was the black and white was just a matter of trying to get it as authentic 1950s as we could, shooting on cameras from 2010. Shooting on digital. So
very cool. It's very, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it came out great, looking like a 50s movie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We even did the soundtrack too. We were very specific about trying to get music that sounded that way. And I'm very lucky. One of my best friends does, Ramon and Noah. He's been my composer the whole time. We were, musicians when we were young, because everybody wanted to be Kurt Cobain in 1994. So
Oh, yeah.
we started with the band and we moved on. And now that I'm making movies, he's my composer. And he was very specific about it too. He did a lot of research into, because back then they used orchestras, and we can't afford that. So he researched the types of instruments that they would use and found a lot of sound banks and pre-recorded stuff that fit that style.
Like stock music, kind of like
No, not stock music, but like, okay, in the keyboard itself, sometimes there's like pre-recorded things that are already in there, like a little loop of a couple of notes. He'd start with that as the bass, say, okay, this is that old trumpet sound, and would and then would just build off of that to keep it so that
cool.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we didn't. I don't think we used any stock music in that. If we did, it was just like to fill a gap here or there.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I try to stay away from stock music simply because he's, I have him to work with, and he's always he's always down to do the soundtrack. We're in the middle of doing the soundtrack for the new anthology now. And, with this whole quarantine thing, it's been a real pain in the ass because he's up. So he's working 6 days a week, 16 hours a day. He has zero time to sit down behind a keyboard and write music. So it's like, I mean, thankfully he's safe, and that should be what I'm thankful about. But it's like we're both sitting here like, fuck, man, I want to finish this damn music already.
See, but then that goes to show you, the love that everybody has for these movies and stuff. And it's like, as exhausted as you are, as beat down as you are, you're going to sit there and, you'll find a couple more hours just to add to it and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't get into indie horror for the money. You really don't. You have to love it or you don't do it. If you're in it for the money, dude, there's easier ways of getting rich, way easier ways.
That's cool. That's cool.
Do you have any stories about the brains with the strings, like how y'all are doing that?
They the way we started was we bought a little rubber brain from like a effects shop. You know, I think it was Halloween Adventure in the City, probably, or maybe a Party City or something. We just found like one of those rubber brains you find, and we molded it, and we made like 4 or 5 molds, and then we just filled it with canned insulator. We just filled it with that, and then when we pulled it out, we covered that in latex and gave it a little bit of color. But that's pretty much how we did most of the brains. The big one was actually a leftover prop from another friend of ours movie, our friend Patrick Devaney. Also, I don't know if you guys know Zombie Hunter City of the Dead. That's a zombie TV series. He has a short film that he made called Mirage, which is based on a heavy metal comic book, and he actually got the rights for it and everything. So,
oh wow, cool.
Yeah. There's this one scene where the girl's like soul is being taken out, and he made it out of this out of pink insulation and all this, and there's all this pink leftover goo and and when we were on set, I happened to look at this one chunk that was sitting there. I said, "Looks like a giant brain." Yeah, it does. They're like, "Dude, we need to use this." So I just took the thing as a brain. We scraped a little bit off of it just so it gave a little bit more of that brain shape, you know. And the arms and legs of it were just made out of latex. And another friend of ours happened to be working at the time. He was working at the green screen studio in CUNY, and he was like manager of that or something, and he let us in on a Saturday, and the 4 of us came in, and we shot all of the doctor's lab stuff is in that green screen room. So I said this was all friends. So another friend of ours who's a teacher in high school, he brought all of his all the chemistry stuff from the lab in the school because we shot it over the. So he went in over the summer. He went in a couple of days before the shoot, took all the chemistry lab stuff, put it in a box, brought it, and that was our set. That's our lab set, and then and it's just the green screen room we shot it in. Then we turned the cameras back to color so we could hang the brains on strings and just spin them around in front of the camera for like a half an hour. We just got all this footage of just brains being thrown in front of a green screen, bouncing off the wall, you know, hanging them off fishing line and everything. The big brain had because it was between the legs and the brain itself, I think it must have weighed about 12 pounds. You know, it's this big, heavy thing. So we must have had like 5 or 6 strings just to keep it from breaking, you know, and we had this big wooden cross that it hung off of, and we had to hang it up over it. And, you know, it was a lot of fun. But it was just kind of one of those things where we just made it up as we went along. We're like, we really don't know how we're going to do this. Fuck it. We'll figure it out when we get there. We're just like, we got a green screen. We got pink brains. The color, we don't have to worry about the color clashing too much. So as long as it's lit, as long as we have the proper lighting, you know, and everything stays in the proper framing, we should be good. You know,
That's so cool.
yeah.
So cool.
And then I just, you know, chroma keyed it out in post, and then turned it into made it all black and white. And we're like, well, we could see the brains. They're like, well, you could see the strings in the brains. Well, you could see the strings when they're in the grass. You can see the strings here. There's even a scene we throw the brain at him. He hits it and catches it. You can see the string hanging off the side of him. And you know, I think there's one scene where one of the people on the side, like their hand actually comes into frame as they throw the brain at it. You know, and I'm like, fuck it, leave it. It's hilarious. You know, it's
see, that's so cool, man. I love hearing that stuff.
Yeah, when you're gonna do something like that, you really have to lean into it, because otherwise it just looks like a mistake. It's like, oh man, they couldn't get rid of that. But it's like when an extra's hand is suddenly in the shot pulling a string, you know, like here, let's see if you see it from here. If like you see the hand just doing that, it's like, okay, they did that on purpose.
Personally, I think it adds to it, like honestly, because of the charm and like, you know, how those movies were in the 50s. Like they were doing the same stuff that you guys were doing now, just to have it rolling. So like, yeah, I think it adds greatly to it, man. Seriously.
And we did it at the end too, when the brain is attacking Bobby. We told him, we're like, look, you're Bela Lugosi and you're being attacked by the swamp monster. And he says, oh, okay, I can do that. He just threw the legs around. You know, awesome. It was like, there you go. You know, what about the strings?
Like, a lot of fun making
Ed Wood with UFOs, you know, it's
the trailer, man. I was dying laughing, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I was laughing because I love those movies, and it was just like, this is great. Like, this is great. So yeah, it definitely came across. It totally, you know, came through. So
Thank you. Thank
Absolutely,
you.
absolutely. If you don't mind, I have a question.
Yeah, go
Was
ahead.
there a certain, like when you were younger and you knew this is what you wanted to do? Was there a
Mhm.
movie that did it for you? Was there one movie in particular, or a couple, or you
Um,
know?
for my entire life, when I was young, we had video discs, not laser discs. My father bought video discs because he was convinced that's what was going to be the big thing
That's the
instead of laser.
format of the future.
That
Yes.
was it, you know. And I had then, and I still have now, Creep Show, Altered States, Halloween 3, and The Changeling. And I watched them repeatedly from when I was like 4 or 5 years old. As soon as I knew how to put that giant thing in and hit, those are the things I watched. We also had Superman. I had, we had Richard Pryor on the Sunset Strip. You know,
Oh yes. Oh
um,
yeah.
I had the Entity. We had the Abyss. I had a lot of that stuff. But those four was a constant for me. Creep Show still my absolute favorite movie of all time. Number
Creep Show,
one, Creep
man.
Show is
Yeah,
is
you
is
can't beat
tops for me.
it.
That's it.
And then
Just to
Halloween
get
3 gets no love,
oh, dude,
I love
Halloween
that one.
3.
I will fist
Halloween
fight
3
somebody
right
over
there.
Halloween 3.
There's my little
There we
kids.
go. There we go. Tom
I love
Atkins
Halloween
mustache
3.
saves the world.
And
You
there's my
know.
Creep Show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
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 it's
awesome.
awesome. That's
yeah, it's
awesome.
my absolute favorite, and I've always wanted to do stuff around that. When I was about, I think I was about 9 or 10. Me and my friends decided we were gonna make a monster movie, and our friend's father had a video camera. We're like, oh, let's do it. And we figured out how to have the monster grab the girl from off screen without him, and then we would just put blood on her, and she'd fall back into camera, you know. And it turned out that my friend's dad was just humoring us. He never actually hit record. He just held the camera because he just made us happy, you know. Kind of
Yeah.
sucked, but I was like, I'm 9 years old, like, and this was a memory that I had forgotten until years later. I was like, shit, I actually tried to do that. And then I remembered this other time when I was like, I think I was 12 or 13. No, it was my brother's 10th birthday, which means I was like 14. And I tried to convince my friends to do a murder mystery thing for him, you know and one of the girl who I had told her, I said, okay, you're going to be the killer, but nobody knows except for you. So this way, like, as it goes through, I figured like I could just be the director and I'll just tell people, here, you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and then she's sitting there like a typical 12-year-old girl would do. She literally says out loud, who am I going to kill first? And my brother hears it, and I'm like, you ruined the whole thing. So it's just like, it wasn't something, the idea to make films didn't actually hit me till I was in my 20s or so, you
Okay.
know. But I guess it was kind of always there. Like we did the music, we did the band thing when we were teenagers, and by the time I was 21 or 22, we hadn't ever really recorded anything. We just played in the basement. We just wrote music, and we never did anything with it. And I ended up sitting there and I'm looking at, we always wanted to do music videos because it's the 90s. Who doesn't want to do a music video?
Oh yeah.
And I had books with song lyrics, and I had another book with ideas for videos, and I'm like, these ideas for videos are better than the songs. Like I'm writing more ideas for videos and kind of writing the song to match the video, and it's becoming very like on the nose lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just like, fuck it, let's just make movies. Let's make films instead. Forget this music thing. Like it's not going anywhere. We're obviously not as dedicated to it as we think we are. Let's try movies. And the 4 or 5 of us were sitting around on. It was I don't remember. It was sometime between Christmas and New Year's in 2006, I want to say. 2005, 2006. A bunch of us were just sitting in the living room. My friend's sitting there. He just got this new mini Sony DV camcorder, and he's sitting there playing with it. And we're like, guys, what are we doing? I don't know. What are we going to do? I said, let's go make a movie. What do you mean, let's make a movie? I took my girlfriend, who's now my wife at the time. She's sitting there. And I said, we're going to kill you. Wait, what? My basement, actually, the house that we live in at the time, well, we still live there now, but in the basement of this house, the previous owner was a locksmith, and he had this little work shed in the basement. So in the room, there was all this stuff that was left over that my parents just never threw out. It was just this little storage room, but it had like thousands of little keys and locks and all this chiseling equipment and all this other stuff that just hung around the ceiling. And the whole room was made out of, had like wood boards and everything on it, and had this awesome heavy wooden door, you know.
It
So
looked
all
like
right,
something from a horror movie.
exactly, exactly. And it was lit by this one single light bulb that just hung in the center of the room.
Man.
Like,
Oh,
this is
man.
a torture. Yeah, you know, like this is something that this guy built in the early 70s, at least, probably older than that. There was a calendar still hanging up there from 1974. You know,
Wow.
so the room is at least that old. Okay. And I said, let's go downstairs and kill her. You know, so fine. We put the chair down there. We got some handcuffs. We put some tape on her, and we did a found footage serial kill. You know, 4 guys killing a girl in a room with their handheld camera. You know, and we worked out when we were going to pass the camera, because those would be the cuts, so I could shift the camera quick, and that would be where we'd cut it.
Yeah.
And we went to the store. We got chicken gizzards and this thin sausage, and I put it into a Ziploc bag and filled it with fake blood and everything. And we taped it under her stomach. I was like, all right, we're going to do the whole thing. And then I'm going to cut her open. We're going to eviscerate her. And we're going to pull the guts up. And it's going to be and that'll be the end, you know? And I think we shot about 15 minutes of it. And it was just so terrible, so bad. Oh, God, it was atrocious. It's horrible. I gave it to a friend of mine who had an editing program. We got about 2 minutes of usable footage of it that I was happy with. And I looked at it, I was like, okay, that looks good. That looks good. That looks good. So we turned it into a trailer. And he's like, we'll do the full movie someday when we know what we're doing. So we got about a 1.5-minute long trailer out of it. And after that, we ended up doing a whole bunch of trailers, you know, and that was around the same time Grindhouse came out.
Okay.
So we wanted to do stuff like that. So it's kind of like all this stuff just inspired. Like, it's one of those, just like, it's there. I don't know. I don't have a specific, this is what inspired me to do this. This is what inspired me to do that. I've just been watching horror films my whole life, and everything came up to the point where, fuck it, let's make horror movies. You know?
Nah, that's great. That's great. It was always there, kind of, you know, it was always there.
Yeah. You know, nothing specific. Like, oh, this, I know some people have that, like, there was this moment where I saw this and that made me want to do it. It's just like, I was into art, I was into music, I was into photography, and it's like, what better way? Just combine them all, make movies. You know,
So
just
cool.
fell into place.
No, it's very cool.
Yeah, I know. I want to make movies one day. So.
You can do
We'll
it.
get there. We'll get
You
there
can
one
do
day.
it. You guys can do it. It just, trust me, you just get up and do it. And it's literally what we did. Just get up and do it. And once you do it, you'll be like, that was cool, but we can do better. And you're going to do more. That's it, man.
Ah, that's great. That's great. Yeah.
I guess you might already answer this, but I was going to ask you, how did Mass Grave Pictures get started?
It was the same group of people, you know. We originally were Horror Show Productions, and then we changed our name to Sedition Films, because we started doing, for a little while, we were starting to write, like, this was during the end of the Bush era, and we were doing like these really politically charged kind of scripts, you know, but they were just so big in ideas, you know. There was a competition we tried to enter once where it was like, do a fake trailer for, because we did a lot of fake trailers. So there was doing a fake trailer for a sequel to a film that doesn't need a sequel.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. So we came up with the idea. We unfortunately never shot it, but we came up with the idea and we wrote the script for JFK 2. He came back as a zombie.
Oh, I really want to see this, man. Oh, God damn it.
We're like, JFK 2. We made a fake poster for it and everything. And
JFK harder.
And, you know, something like that. Like, he was going to come back somewhere between a zombie and the Crow, where he wants vengeance, and you know, that's he was going to take it out on those conservative bastards, you know.
I'm the grassy knoll. That's just
you
great.
know,
That's great.
and it was kind of like that, and again, it was because, you know, Night of the Living Dead is very political. You know,
Yes.
It has all undertones, and Day of the Dead had it, and we were kind of moving toward that direction in our writing. And then it just never really, like, we had ideas, but they said they were just so big. It's like, we can't afford this. All right, let's put it to the side. Now we can't afford this. Put it to the side. You know, and it was just after about 3 or 4 years of calling ourselves that, it was just like this film. We did the Blood Slaughter Massacre trailers. The first film was originally a bunch of trailers as well. We did parts 1, 2, 3 of a series of slasher films that didn't exist. You know, so it's like if you watched all 3 trailers, you got the story of this slasher killer. You know?
Oh, cool. All right, cool.
Yeah. So that was the original idea, and then when we did the feature, we just took the idea, the stories from all 3, and turned it into one big film. And it was like, as we were doing this, they were slasher, it was blood, lots of, you know, nudity, and it was just, and it was like, sedition films does not fit that style of horror anymore. Like, that just doesn't work. And it was kind of like we sat and brainstormed for a while. Where does the name? We need a name that's memorable and something like that. And one of us just, at some point, whether it was me or my wife, one of us threw out the name Massgrave. Like, Massgrave, that's interesting. You know, Massgrave Productions, Massgrave Pictures. We had a whole list of things, and that when we kept crying, no, we don't like this, you know. And that was the one that we both kind of just agreed on. And then we Googled it, and I was like, okay, well, let's see if there's anybody that has that name, Massgrave Pictures. I found that there's like a death metal band called Massgrave. Massgrave Pictures. Google the words Massgrave Pictures and tell me what you find. And I was like,
yeah,
perfect.
Yeah.
Just think about that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Massgrave Pictures. And I was like, perfect. That's exactly what I want. And people have been telling us for years, you know, I Googled you. The things I found are just, oh my God, it's horrible. I said, thank you. You will never forget it.
Exactly.
You know, and that's what it was. You wanted a memorable name, and that worked. But as far as the team itself, they were just some friends of ours. It was mainly me, my wife, and our friend Louis. He, at the time that I met him, we were trying to start a new band, and he played bass, and I was singing, and my other friend was on guitar. And again, it just never, it was the band that was sitting around that day, just doing nothing. So it shows how dedicated we were to our music. We're sitting in the living room for 4 hours doing nothing. What should we do? We should write a fucking song. No. Yeah. We should write
is paying off.
Yeah, exactly. But no, let's make a movie. That paid off. So yeah, it just turned into that, like a bunch of and the musicians like, oh, it's not going anywhere. Made a movie. We had a script for that initial first trailer we did. I wrote like an outline of a script, and we started planning of to make that film. Spend a couple months, we shoot it over the weekends and stuff. And to put simply, a few of them were not as dedicated to that either. To put it simply and as diplomatically as possible.
Yes, understood.
They were not as dedicated to that as well. But me and my wife, and Lindsay and Louie, kept working, and that's when we started doing other short films, started entering competitions, little short film competitions, trailer competitions, and it just built up. And now Louie has his own thing. He's New Needle Productions, so he's making his films, and we're doing ours, and you know. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's really cool, man.
Yeah,
do you prefer making movies or the fake trailers?
I'm the trailers are fun. I love making features though. Features are my thing. I'm not crazy about doing short films. Mainly, I enjoy them. Obviously, I really do enjoy I make it no matter what. I want to shoot something, but it's just a matter of short films. You put so much effort, you put so much time, so much work into it, and then you do some film festivals with it, and it just kind of dies. Now it's like, what are you going to do with it? You're going to stick it on YouTube, and nobody's ever going to see it again. You know, so it's not for a lack of not enjoying the film. It's the fact that it's just like, where does it go? Like, how was the last short film you guys watched? You know, even indie horror films, horror fans, they don't seek out short films. You just don't. And it's not for like they don't want to. It's just you don't know where to find them. You know, there's a couple of short films on Shudder. And honestly, unless it's on that list of short films, you're never going to know that they're even there. You're never going to have any idea. There's a bunch on Amazon Prime as well. On Amazon Prime, it's even harder. There's plenty of short films on Amazon Prime, and nobody knows it. Because you have to know the name of something in order to find it. And it's hard enough getting your indie horror film known and getting people to know the name of it to search for it, let alone your 4-minute movie. It's like, it's just, it becomes a money pit. You know, you spend money on making it, you pay everybody to do it, you shoot it, you spend money on this, then you spend more money on festivals, you spend money on going to the festivals, and it's over. You know, so and that's actually where our new feature comes from. It was our feature, the new feature, Dark Tales from Channel X. I think I sent you the trailer for that one. We've done 12 short films since 2013 or so, and 7 of them are in that or are part of that anthology. So we shot an 8th one as a full wraparound. So that's the most we can do, but we still have monsters, 3 or 4 others that don't fit the theme of the film. So it's still like, what do we do? They're gonna end up being an extra on the DVD. You know, the best we can hope for is maybe one of them gets on that Alter, the YouTube channel that does all the short films.
Yeah,
you know, and honestly, if you can get on that, that's some great exposure, and they have a huge audience, so that's great. But their standards are like here. They have, that's why you look at it like they got some really great films, because it's like, yeah, you got to be these are going to be some of the best short films you've ever seen. And they really are. I mean, you want 10 million views on your short film, it better be damn good, you know. So that's, if you're going to make short films, that's one of those places that's like, yep, I want to be on Alter.
Wow. All right.
With Theta States, is there any cool stories about filming the nightmares?
Have any stories of the nightmares? I wanted a lot more of them, but the budget didn't. It was great working with Misty Monday. She was incredible. I absolutely loved her. We always loved her in the seduction cinema films that she did in the early 2010s or so, right?
Yeah, the Spider Girl, I think that's the one I saw her in.
Yeah, Spider Babe.
Yes,
Spider Babe.
Yeah,
she did a whole bunch of those, and we met her once or twice at Chiller Theater years earlier. But that was just like, oh my god, I love your films, this is awesome. You know, just a bunch of fans saying hello to her, and that's it. But when we were casting, I was saying that, like, I wanted somebody that, like, I've always wanted to work on. Like, I'd love to, and she was great in Sick Girl, the Masters of Horror episode. You know, she had a couple other like real horror films that she did, and she was really good in them. Said, well, we need somebody like her. Fuck it. I messaged her on Facebook one day, and she read the script and she loved it. So I was like, awesome, let's do this. So it was really fun working with her. The ending sequence. Oh, there you go. You want a funny story? Here we go. That's perfect. I knew I was going somewhere with it. So the doctor's office is my father-in-law's neighbor. It's his house. He is he's a writer. He's a novelist. So we were searching for months trying to find something that looked like a therapist's office. And in my head, a therapist's office looked like a room, big leather couch, a desk, and a wall full of books. And that was my thing, a wall full of books. That's you know. And we searched all over. I went through Airbnb and a couple of location scout places, and it's just like everything was just. I found one place that was absolutely perfect, and they wanted $8,000 a day.
Whoa!
And I was like,
oh wow!
This entire film is, I think the whole film was like 22,000. Like, if I need 4 days shooting in this type of, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, that's a little.
4 days shooting in this, like, that's literally more than our budget. So, all right, so that's not going to happen. And we just kept asking around people. We said, who do we know? And then one day, my dad, he's like, so how's the film going? How's it? And she's like, well, we're looking for this. We just can't find it. And she was so frustrated with me at that point, because we were already like halfway through shooting the movie and we still hadn't found this location. So she's like, we're almost done with this, and we don't have the doctor's office yet. You need to compromise. And I'm like, no, it has to, like when you're doing low budget horror stuff, you have to have certain things that sell your story. You absolutely have to. I mean, and you just call it production value. Certain things you can't skimp on. And it was just one of those things where if this does not sell therapist, this office doesn't look like a therapist's office, nobody's going to buy that he's a doctor. Absolutely no one.
Yeah.
So we ended up making it 2 different locations, but it worked. We had one friend of ours who is actually a lawyer, and the owner, the head of that firm, his son is a PA, is a professional PA in the union and stuff.
Yeah.
So we asked him if we could use their office, and that was the main foyer where the secretary was, and all the hallways, and and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We asked him, we asked if we could use that. He talked to his boss, and his boss was like, you know what, my son makes movies. I'm with it. That's really cool. Just as long as everything's back, they promise they're not going to damage anything. Yes, don't worry. Cool, go for it. And apparently we were so clean when they came in on Monday. They're like, were they even here this weekend? And he's like, yeah, they've been here the last 2 weekends. He's like, oh, I had no idea. Awesome. They're welcome back whenever they want. Great.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
So we got that one. So we got that location. That was that one. So then we talking to my father-in-law and explaining how we're doing all this whole problem. And he's like, well, Bob Crockett, if anybody wants to look up his books, Bob Crockett lives next door to him. And he said, well, let me see. I'm pretty sure that he's like, we've been over there a couple times for dinner. I'm pretty sure that his den is, well, and I said, all right. And he sent us some picture, and I was like, oh my God. It was literally like 25 feet of bookshelves. Awesome. I was like, oh my God. And then the best part of it is the fact that, again, he's a novelist. So he hung up the original art from his own books and put them around the room, and he put his books in front. So it was like, well, because sometimes you have a book sitting out like, oh, here's display this, display that. So he was able to put his own books in front, so you can see all his books out, and it's like, well, we have rights to use this art now.
Yeah.
So that worked out even better. And okay, so now to the story. We're shooting in the house, and you see when we're doing the end sequence, where Misty Monday, she's in the room, and she's totally naked, walking toward Tom when she's backing him up against the desk, like, you want me, and she's doing all that. She's head to toe naked. At some point while we're shooting, Bob Crockett's wife comes home, and she walks in, and she goes, "Oh," I mean, she knew we were shooting there and everything, but she didn't think when she opened the doors. "Oh, okay, sorry." And she goes into the basement. Now, right behind, in the room that we're shooting in, there was his office in the next room, like behind, like when you see the scene, there's a door. There's a door in the background there. He's in that room there, okay, doing his whatever, checking his emails and stuff. And his wife goes into the basement, and she texts him in the room, and she says, "Did you know that there's a naked girl in our living room right now?" He didn't tell her that we were doing nudity in the scene because he thought she might not be comfortable about it, but he was like, it's not going to be a big deal. It's not like we're not making porn here.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, no big deal. She's like, "Did you know that there's a naked girl in our living room? Did you know that they were?" He says, "Yes, I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but what you need to consider is the amount of strength that it takes in me to not open that door right now, and appreciate the loyalty I have for you."
That's great. That's great.
And coincidentally, when we were shooting Blood Slaughter, we did the same. We shot that in my in-laws' house. So we got all the girls in the slumber party, and we have girls getting cut with chainsaws and all this stuff. And most of the weekend, Bob Crockett, and that was a couple of years earlier. Before that, Bob Crockett sat on his outer deck with a glass of wine, watching us shooting in the house. All the girls getting killed and everything. He spent the whole weekend just drinking wine, watching it. Like, this is better than TV.
Oh yeah. That's awesome.
We should have started with that and then moved into why he was cool with us shooting in his house 3 years later. Probably should have started that. I'll tell the story straightforward next time somebody asks me.
That's
But
awesome.
so yeah,
Yeah.
he knew for years what we did, and he was like, "This is awesome." And now there's a naked girl in his living room. What do? I keep that door closed, or I'm getting divorced.
That's good. That's good. See, we love hearing stories from the sets because then when we go back and rewatch the films, we know all the little details because now we're going to be like, well, there's a guy checking his email behind that door, and his divorce is depending on him not opening that door.
Oh,
It's
it's so
I
good.
love hearing this stuff. It's so
Dang,
funny, so funny.
to add one more, not much of a funny story, but the shoot in the apartment, in the girl when she first turns into the demon.
Yeah.
We were shooting that at our friend's apartment. And while we were outside shooting that, where the two of them, why don't you go upstairs? Come up for a drink. We'll talk. Hang out for a little while. This older dude came walking. He's standing there watching us. It's this guy in a red jacket and a hat, just watching us. And we're like, "Hi, how are you?" He's like, "Oh, you guys making a movie? That's great." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah, I was in a movie back in our younger days. It was a friend of ours, George, made this film, and I was an extra. I was a zombie in the film." We're like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah. It was Night of the Living Dead. You ever heard of it?" Holy shit! We're literally it was the same apartment complex. Holy shit!
When you said George, I said, "Oh, tell me he's gonna say it. Tell me he's gonna say it."
Our
Oh,
friend
that's
George was
great.
making a movie. Like, oh my god, this is amazing! So we all got to take a picture with him. And when I went home and saw the picture, I was like, oh my god, I recognize that dude. We put the movie on. I was like, that was him. Off the top of my head, I'm not remembering which scene, but we saw him in the film. Like, that's him. He was a fuck. Jesus Christ, that was awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah. So, fun anecdote there.
Man. Well, listen, if there's anything you'd like to plug or, you have coming down the pipeline, the floor is yours by all means.
Well, first things first, you can get all of our stuff, all of our trailers, and see whatever we have available on massgravepictures.com. On there, you can get links to watch Attack of the Brain People on Amazon Prime and Vimeo. Our new movie, Theta States, is on Vimeo right now. It should be on Amazon soon, but because of all of this, they have a limited staff, so their uploading is... Well, it's like the shooter's backlog. I've been waiting for like a month. Brain People went up in 3 days. Amazon, the Theta's been waiting for a month now, so it'll be up eventually. We're going to be doing a DVD and Blu-ray release of that as well, because that was another story. Let's not get into that. But later on this year, we're going to be doing that. And I'm in post on our newest feature, which is Dark Tales from Channel X. Also kind of retro themes. It's a babysitter who finds an old TV in the basement, old dial TV set in the basement of the house that she's babysitting on, and it starts playing movies. And
Sweet. That sounds awesome.
So we're in post on that one right now. Hopefully everything somewhat starts getting back to normal, and that'll be at film festivals later this year. Fingers crossed on that.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And
so that's that.
Awesome.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else. But yeah, massgravepictures.com. We put all of our stuff on there. So if there's anything I'm forgetting, you'll find it there.
Okay.
Cool.
If you're not a member already, we have a Facebook group for Horror After Midnight. You can go in there and feel free to share all your stuff in there. By all means, man. By all means. But yeah, thanks for coming and hanging out, man. It was a pleasure, man.
Thanks for having me, man. It was a whole lot of fun.